Pentiment, the game where you play as a journeyman artist in a medieval universe from a painter's point of view, living alongside peasants and Catholics while you can choose to be a Protestant among them, making decisions from the beginning to the end of the game, shaping our character just like God shapes us every day like a potter does. Andreas Muller, the protagonist, is our mediator between our world and his world, his city, his people, their conflicts, and everything surrounding it. But his mind is the way the game chooses to tell us what's going on inside of him. Welcome to the Memory Palace, an ideal city where Andreas has his thoughts exposed to the player. We can read some debates to influence the player to choose between the three archetypes. Saint Gruben, a fictional patron saint of vulgar and coarse people. He encourages misbehavior and mischief, anything perverse you can think of. Beatrice, she represents Andreas' compassion and Christian morality. Prester John, the leader of this city. He is a wise, measured ruler who tries to mediate between the opinions of the Memory Palace. And we have Socrates. Like the wiki says, Socrates is a character in Pentiment. Acting as a hedonist, Christian, ethical, and logical person is a choice up to the player to decide which Andreas you want to build and the Andreas that exists despite your choices. His identity as a human being. By understanding his character, by putting ourselves in his shoes, we can understand the world and time in history he's placed in and care about these villagers, the way they live, the way they see their lives as humans, as Christians, as sinners, as residents, as enjoyers of the old ways. In the fictional Alpine town of Tassin during the 16th century, just like Andreas was my mediator to live in this unfortunately fictional village for a few months during my playthrough, I want to be your mediator for you to live inside of this time in history for a few minutes and discover the art, the joy, the simplistic but meaningful life they have. And of course, the murder cases and who is behind it all. Welcome to Recodes, your new favorite game review channel, and I want to show you why you should play this game after watching this video. The game is about solving murder cases. Between a normal routine passing here and there, we sometimes stumble upon some dead bodies over the way that we must find the answer for who is doing this before the whole town falls apart. You know, just a medieval task before lunch with no pressure about this. You must focus on all that the game has to offer in order to solve this case, including the conversations, interactions, suspicious motions, and most importantly, meal times and suppers. And here's the reason I'm going to convince you to play this game or to reject it at all costs. Because everyone likes great thrillers or police stories. Stories that require you to follow the main characters for the sake of solving the mystery with them. And you may be shocked or dissatisfied if the conclusion isn't satisfactory. Batman chasing his villains trying to solve their mysteries. Sherlock Holmes being Sherlock Holmes. Or Patrick asking the question of every existence.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument.
This type of suspense really catches us, but Pentiment goes even further by making you care about the people in Tassin and their Bavarian way of life, making you feel that the old brother Piero is actually a real-life Christian, and you as a player are having an actual impact on all of these town folks along the 25 years the game passes its story. It matters, it really does, and in a way that only this game could make me feel this way. The mealtime, where you would ostensibly spend your time solving this mystery, becomes, without your knowledge, about the people at the table, their thoughts, their suspicions, their hearts and souls, their faith, and the way they speak to us. Pentiment, as awesome a piece of art as it is, works like it should, creating for us a bridge between the real and the fictional to change us here. We should be the ones who change things, but the game changes us instead. To seek guidance to understand why this game not only talks about art, but pulses art and love in literally every frame of the game, I had to study its development origin. The passion to make a historical RPG was inside Josh Sawyer, the director of Pentiment, for a long time. After playing Darklands, a game from the 90s that was janky, even for its time, but still set in the Holy Roman Empire with incorporated fantastic elements, he felt this desire growing inside of him to create a historical RPG. With a later degree in history and knowledge of Shakespeare, we have what would be the starting point to create Pentiment. After working on huge projects that exhausted him from doing one big project to another big project, he decided to settle down a bit and create something more unique without focusing on sales. But how would he do a historical RPG with choice and consequences, with zero combat, without being a flop? The answer is a good old capitalist company offering the majestic service of games. Game Pass. Microsoft acquired Obsidian, and Josh assumed they would like a smaller, unique title on the catalog. And with this best case scenario, and no pitch deck, just 13 people and a man with a mission, Pentiment was created. Art is the best word to describe this game. The characters feel so real because of the artistic direction. They look different at all times due to their unique animation style. Sometimes, the NPCs have distinct manias when it comes to how they move their mouths, make sounds, express their emotions, and even the fonts they use when they talk to us directly. Peasants have a fancy but simplistic typography, while monks and scholars have a more classy style. Thanks to the 2.5D animations, they can have a tone of nuance in their facial expressions without letting go of the medieval art style, giving them a living creature feeling. Even the way they walked was observed to make us feel immersed in this world. In the past, they used leather shoes with no soles, so they had to walk with the ball of their foot first, because if they walked with their heel, they could step on a sharp object that could be deadly, or worse, they could be prevented from working, but not preventing from seeing their whole family die from starvation. And you are complaining about your situation. Different from us in the 21st century, they didn't have a proper shoe ready for different environments, like that Benton shoe you have inside your shoe rack waiting to be used on special occasions. You're going to get her, man. Just use your best shoe and trust in Providence to make her move. I can't discuss how immersive this game is without mentioning the interactions we have from the moment you start playing this game. The VFX works as subconsciously as it can to add life to the scenes. The sound of an old wood house when you start to walk, the sound of the soup being prepared in the cooking pot, the sound of people and animals outside the house, and even the sound of the game writing its dialogues in real time. Everything is meticulously produced to make you not pay that much attention to these details, but to make them subconsciously comfortable for you, or not. Because if you have PTSD with farms and rural interiors, then this is going to be hell for you.
No! God, please, no! No!
The game is also hella immersive when it decides to talk to you about concepts without directly explaining them to you, because if you are now part of this world, then if the NPCs are talking about trusting Providence, Abbott, or even our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who died for our sins but rose from the dead on the third day and will come back to save his people and condemn the ones who despised him for all eternity, if you don't know about all these topics or the way they're using these words, you are going to understand by the context and the repetitiveness of the topics, just like a real person understands a lot of the topics by listening to people talking about them over and over. Like when you're at a table with friends and they start talking about something you don't get, and they even start laughing about it, and you can't catch a glimpse of what they're talking about, so just smile awkwardly with the edge of your mouth to not be left out of the conversation, but you finally get what they are talking about while the conversation goes on. Well, if you are on the team that even with the context you went up with no clue, the game has a species of glossary too. They even added funny guys in the margin to make you feel safe while admitting you should have paid more attention to the historic lessons at school. By the way, these funny little guys, or marginalia, are inspired by medieval tiny doodles. They were drawn to represent some topic in the books and to be a little silly too. They pretty much work as a creative freedom for the development team, so if you see them in the margins, know that you're safe. It's okay to not be a know-it-all, since a true champion is not the one who knows everything, but the one who is willing to seek true knowledge. All of these make you feel like Andreas would feel. Andreas Mahler. Oh man, I love this protagonist so much. In fact, I love this guy so much that the best part of Avowed is the Obsidian intro because Andreas is in it. Andreas is a skilled artist with a university education. Unlike most families of his social class, his father managed to pull some strings to get him into higher education. Andreas is working in the scriptorium at Kiersal Waby, helping to complete a Book of Hours, a beautifully illustrated manuscript filled with prayers and other sacred texts. It's part of his master program, serving as his final project to prove his artistic talent. Once it's done, he plans to return to his hometown, marry Sabine in an arranged marriage, and begin what should be a long and successful career. But everything changes when a noble is found murdered in the Abyss chapter house. Andreas gets pulled into the investigation and soon uncovers a dark complex conspiracy tied to a mysterious figure known as the Thread Puller. Andreas is someone who can move between the ecclesiastical and the secular world. He works in a scriptorium, but scriptoriums were not a reality at the time. However, because Tassin is a mix of communities, religious, secular, and even Austrian culture, but not all at the same time, Obsidian may tell us a story without the burden of historical authenticity. It feels like a real place, but it's not. So when we use Andreas as our mediator, we can connect with this culture. Monks, the countrymen, and the ones devoted to the monastic way of life. Monks are generally all the same. Imagine one in your mind, and you'll probably imagine an old dude with a long black robe. Try to think of 5 different faces for them and fail miserably. You're going to end up with the same face syndrome problem. To overcome this challenge, the studio took inspiration from the movie The Name of the Rose. This movie thought of a brilliant solution. Since they all have the same outfit, why not cast ugly people as monks to make them unique and unforgettable? Modern problems require modern solutions. Let me ask you, would you be able to take on the role of a monk? Do you trust in your facial abilities? Comment below if you do, because someday it can be you. Your mother always told you you're special after all. The monks are a precious part of this game. It wasn't for nothing that the abbot was one of the first parts to be made for the game. They are precious fellas, with their secrets, with their hidden sins, so no one can see, with their heart and soul dedicated to Christ, and with their views on mercy. Brother Piero, in Act 1, talked a lot with me. I'm a Christian, a Protestant in studies to become a Reformed Christian, but this guy, I wish he was real. The devs took care with this character to show us what a person who loves Jesus can be, beyond human borders or controversies, just a simple old man who loves Jesus Christ with all his heart. This is meaningful, especially nowadays. Everyone in the AB has their own reasons to be there. That's nice because not everyone became a monk back then for vocation. Some became monks out of necessity, others to live a new life, and some others were forced to be there. But it's so nice to see a vivid representation of a Christian character. Not only him, but others too. Seeing through the lens of a video game how Christ was seen by the villagers of all different classes was a truly remarkable experience. And about this representation, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is proclaimed. I rejoice in this. The way historical events impact Tassin is in day-to-day life. You hear about Martin Luther at the AB, but the villagers don't know exactly all the details surrounding this topic, but they do know that they shouldn't be talking about it. Then you go to the secular part of town and you hear about some riots happening in cities away from them, and even if they don't grasp everything, it's enough to understand the basics. People go to Tassin, people talk, people send letters, and people pass through inns on the road. And because of this, they know what's happening even if they don't have all the details. It's not a history game even though it's a historical RPG, so you understand things through the lens of the townsfolk that are apart from the major events but not totally cut off from everything. You happen to see their way of life through meal times, and just as I said at the beginning of the video, that's the magic of Pentiment. They matter, they are a community, they are strong together, and you, as the one who plays to conduct the story, are the one capable of changing them, helping them, or even being changed by them. Affecting if a neighbor will or won't be changing his attitude towards a lover from the past, seeing children grow as the years pass while yourself feel attached to their growth, the changes of the town, the conflicts, trying to be the greatest man you can be while yet knowing that you can't control everything. In some way, these non-playable characters have their own identities, choices, and points of views that you can't control. You just have to accept them as they are, that even the protagonist is the way he is. Words and all. While traditional choice-based RPGs give the payoff of your choices almost immediately, like you do something and you see the consequences of your actions like 50 minutes after making your choice, Pentiment takes your hand for 25 years to see people change, people growing, people dying, people falling, and people remembering the small things you said and taking them into consideration when you want to convince them they remember. Being regretful of the choice you should have made, being happy for the things you did and now that person, that character, can see a better future. And being angry when your character doesn't act as you would like him to act, not saying what you would like him to say. Trying to solve this murder mystery, but accepting that your protagonist is changing in a way that you're no longer in control of him, to make him know by the people surrounding him, but knowing you are in the position to sit down and actually know him as a fictional human being through the 3 acts of this game. That isn't for everyone, because it works like a playable book with some minigames games to add some variety here and there without losing the main focus of the game. Its dialogues, its charm, its art, its beautiful and poetic soundtrack, and its mystery too, but most of all, its family, Dustin's family, whom you happily get to know a little better while you immersing yourself inside this world. For this experience, for this marvelous journey that isn't perfect, I have to say thank you to Obsidian for creating this dear gem in the form of a video game. Like Josh said about this reactiveness the game has, we do the best we can. I did the best I could to present you this game as it should be presented for you. Will you like it? I don't know. Will you hate it? I don't know, but what I do know is that you shouldn't pass through this life without giving a try to this game. On Game Pass, on PlayStation, or on PC, Pentiment is a masterpiece anywhere. Like the video? Thanks a lot. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below. Any constructive criticism? Comment below so I can be a better video maker in the next video. My gamertag, Switch friend code, and PSN ID are all appearing on the screen right now. Thanks for watching, and always remember that whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Goodbye, and God bless you all.